Well, Nas, myself and the crew have made a slightly rustic trip from the centre of Indore to here, which is Gulawat Lotus Valley, which is an absolutely beautiful spot. The flowers, though, don't bloom until November, and we're here in October, so we're a month early. We should just explain the different attire. I, being a professional, got my laundry sorted. You, by contrast, did not.
I put my laundry in yesterday, and the production assistant manager of this trip went, "We are doing an interview 3 million miles out of Indore tomorrow, and my laundry isn't back yet." So I've got jeans, I've got a bead on, I've got my smart shoes on. Look at the state of you, Ward. Come on, up your game.
Rustic. We're
It
in a
is
rustic
lovely.
setting. It is obviously the day after England won that thrilling game against India. They're through to the semi-finals. It was a great game of cricket.
It was. I said to you before the game, it was one that you couldn't call really, because there's so, between those sides, there's not much between them. To me, there's great senior players, some younger players that are making their way in the game. Whereas previous games in this tournament, you'd rock up and you'd know, England would probably win, or Australia would probably win, or South Africa would probably win. With that one yesterday, all the way through, right till 57 needed off 58 deliveries with wickets in hand, you still felt there was a twist and a turn, and there was. So that, for India in particular, that's 3 in a row close games that they've not got over the line. South Africa, that almost won the game. Nadine de Klerk came in and suddenly took it away from them. Australia, they got 330 and lost the game, and then yesterday. But for England, they keep their unbeaten run going. And they're through. They qualified through to semi-finals.
Well, we'll come back to England, but let's deal with India. They had that game by the scruff of the neck, and they looked, and you did the presentation, they looked distraught.
Yeah, Harmanpreet Kaur, the pressure of being in a home World Cup. Right before the first game, she did a press conference and she was asked about the pressure of a home World Cup. And she was like, no, we don't feel the pressure. But if you lose 3 in a row and there's a big crowd in like that who are expecting them to win, you then suddenly do, because that New Zealand game that they've got next is a massive game. So, yeah, they'll be hugely disappointed. They were going well, Harmanpreet herself, Smriti Mandana. The ball was getting wet. You can do those presentations, you've done them, and you have to speak to the captains, as I had to yesterday. I had all my questions ready for Nat Sivabrunt about the toss and batting first, because when I went back after doing the toss yesterday, every single Indian I spoke to went, bat first here in Indore? There's a lot of dew comes down. That ball's going to be like a bar of soap. It's going to skid on. It's a chasing ground. And I was like preparing, what do you think about the toss decision? But they go on to win the game, and India managed to snatch a defeat from the jaws of victory. I think the Smriti Mandana dismissal was the key turning point.
She's held her hands up, actually, in the press.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, and Harmanpreet mentioned it twice at the presentation.
3 times, actually, I think it was, yeah.
So Deepti's going well. Deepti's smashing it. Deepti should take that role, and Smriti should bat through. And with mid-off out to try and take on, she probably says she was trying to hit it somewhere else, but hit it straight to Capsey at long off. And then, the wheels come off after that. So that was a key wicket.
Well, it's not over for India. They play New Zealand, as Nas said, and then they play Bangladesh, but they obviously need to arrest that losing run that they're on at the minute. From England's point of view, in terms of winning a tight game, that is what Charlotte Edwards has wanted to instill into this team the moment she took over. She's done that, it would appear. How different, perhaps, is that from previous England sides?
It is different. The two accusations you could have against England in recent history has been when the pressure is on, they've crumbled, whether it be in an Ashes series, whether it be under the lights in Dubai in a game against the West Indies in the T20 World Cup, which they needed to win, or semi-finals in T20 World Cups, which they've needed to win. They've succumbed to pressure, and mainly in the field. And the fielding has let them down, and they've dropped catches and missed chances. That both they put right yesterday, albeit yesterday wasn't a must-win game. So that's the next challenge. When it's a knockout game, and it has to be a must-win, otherwise you're on the flight back home, that will be the next challenge. But yesterday was a big pressure game against a top side with 20,000 in, screaming for India to win, to keep their standards up from a game that they were losing, take their catches with a wet ball, sort of is the Charlotte Edwards way of doing things, under pressure, we will deliver. I thought Nat Sciver-Brunt had a good evening as well. She had to mix and match her bowlers to go back to Linsey Smith, who's done all her work at the start of an innings, but to make sure she had overs of Linsey Smith at the end. She said to me at the presentation it wasn't the 50th over she was concerned about, it was the 48th and 49th, how to go about those, and I think she got it pretty much spot on.
Well, she went Lauren Bell for the 49th. The first ball went for 4.
Yeah, and then there was an option of a super over as well last night, which we all started thinking about. Started looking
We'd
at
still be there.
Yeah, so looking at the regulations for the super over. So, yeah, and then you start thinking, have I got that wrong? Sometimes, and I wasn't being derogatory to her at the presentation when I said, did you just make it up as you go along? I was thinking of the captain. Sometimes towards the end, it's not all pre-planned. It's literally like, because you've got 6, if it's 5 bowlers, it is a bit pre-planned. If you've got 6 bowlers, you're like, okay, who's the best right now? It may be a right-hander on strike, a left-hander on strike, it might be a short boundary, it might just be someone who's having a good evening, and it might just be gut feel that it's going to be Lauren Bell that one, and it's going to be Linsey Smith that one. And she got her bowling options and her field setting and the right fielders in the right positions. I thought she had a really good evening.
Linsey Smith had a really good tournament.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you have to wait for things, I think, you appreciate them a bit more. She's had to wait a very long time for this format, 50 over cricket and a 50 over World Cup. But also there's that sort of, I didn't expect to be here, I can handle this pressure. You know, I think she's very good at handling pressure. Anyone that can bowl in the power play with the fielding regulations, with a brand new ball like she does, she strikes me just as a tough cricketer. Actually, I look at, we talk about succumbing to pressure, England. I look at people like her and Charlie Dean, Deepti Sharma in the Indian side, although she got out after getting 50 yesterday. There's people you watch and you think under pressure, they're the sort of people you want in your side. And I think Linsey Smith's one of them. I think Charlie Dean is another that scored some useful runs again to get England up to 288. So she's having a good tournament to come on and bowl that last over with a wet, slippery ball under pressure. She got it spot on.
300th game for a country yesterday for Heather Knight. Her 3rd international ODI 100. And when I heard that as she was approaching the milestone, I had to double check that. I thought surely she's got more than that, but it was her 3rd nonetheless. Beautifully judged.
Yeah, she looks in good form, good touch, considering how long she's been away from the game, really. I did the game in May at Chelmsford, where she was almost stretchered off with that hamstring. But you thought with a hamstring she'll be back in 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And then she was in the 100 and she was in the dugout and she was like a mentor. And then she's taken a lot and she's been through a lot. She's been through high pressurized chambers to get the rehab going quicker. She's been doing Pilates and all this sort of stuff to get her body right. And then she started well. I mean, the game against Bangladesh when England were really struggling, and she got the rub of the green. She had a bit of luck with the catch and reviews, but she got England over the line. She looks in really good touch and she sweeps beautifully, hard sweep. She's worked on that reverse sweep. Remember, in the women's game you're only allowed 4 outs. It's not like in the men's game where you had the extra fielder out. So if you have got that sweep option, I know as captain, even with the extra one out, anyone that sweeps well is going to be so difficult to bowl at, because you bowl your best ball, a length ball, where other batters are just blocking it or knocking it for one. Hard sweep 4, so you move that fielder there. Fine sweep 4, so you take this one over there, reverse sweep. And you could see she just had Harmanpreet Kaur trying to work out where to get that extra fielder.
So her period as a DK mentor has stood her in good stead for this World Cup, would you say? Taking all the credit.
What are you on about? Sorry, who's...
Heather Knight, you said she was a mentor in the dugout.
Oh,
like
DK. No, she's a better mentor than DK, let's be honest. So, yeah, I mean, it's set her up perfectly for a World Cup, unlike DK.
You've been here since the start. Let's look at the whole tournament. Have you seen any different trends?
The trend in this tournament has been runs down the order. A lot of the sides have got off to bad starts, and the game is going away from them. Even Australia in their first game here on a flat one in indoor against New Zealand was struggling, and then Ash Gardner came in and smashed 100. Australia against Pakistan in Colombo were 70 for 6, and then Beth Mooney batting at 4, and Alana King came in and took the game away from Pakistan. South Africa in the game against India when they were losing and lost. at the end got over the line. So I think that's been the trend in this. That was Nadine de Klerk who did that for South Africa. In this World Cup, it looks like middle order batting has been absolutely vital. Heather Knight against Bangladesh, England was struggling, and Heather Knight with Charlie Dean got them over the line. So that seems to be, whereas in previous World Cups, maybe the players at the top of the order, I think it's now going the other way. Elisa Healy's found form. Tasmin Brits, who's had an incredible year in 50 over cricket, she's got another 100 and a 50 the other day as well. So that was the early trend, definitely middle order runs.
We don't know yet that the fourth member of the semi-finals, and this might not play out in the question I'm about to ask, but in terms of sides like Bangladesh, have you seen in any way the standard coming closer together? Have you seen improvement in some of the other nations? We know about the big guns in women's cricket. What have you seen from, say, a Pakistan and a Bangladesh?
I'd like to say slightly, and that's only because of conditions. So obviously the tournament's in subcontinent, so you'd expect Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan to be closer to the other sides. But two things with that. One, now, because of WPL, because of the amount of cricket these sides are playing and players are playing, they are used to these conditions. All that England team last night, a decade ago, they may have been alien conditions, but now they all play WPL. They'll be used to the crowd as well because of the 100 and WPL, so they're not fazed by it. But you know, so the pitches have helped as well. Obviously, the spin options of the subcontinent sides. I just think the batting hasn't. I think the batting remains the same. I think once you get, and there'll be the odd exception to this, but if you can post a score of 220 against Bangladesh, 99 times out of 100 you're winning that game. Same with Pakistan. Same with Sri Lanka. If Atapattu doesn't get them, you'll probably go on to win the game. So that power hitting that you see from Australia, South Africa, England, India is still not quite there in some of the sides. So Pakistan will say, well, hold on, we had England 70 for 7 before the rain came, and we were 30 for none chasing it down as well. So there have been opportunities where we've nearly had an upset, but as we sit here now, there hasn't been an upset in the tournament.
It's interesting you mentioned about the batting and, say, posting 220 or whatever. I was talking to Ajesh, who runs ICC TV, and ICC TV are brilliant in terms of stats. We'll come on to that in a minute. And Ajesh was looking at the stats of the strike rates if a batter in women's cricket isn't scoring a boundary. It said it drops off a cliff, and that's being able to knock your twos, to knock your ones, to keep the scoring ticking over. Is that sort of what you're talking about?
It is it's the power hitting that I'm talking about.
Right.
When I watch Tasmin Brits back, you watch her, she is big and strong, and she can muscle fours and sixes everywhere. And then you can get off strike and knock it for ones and twos. And if you haven't got that strength, and I look at the Bangladesh lineup and I look at the Pakistan, they are small, not overly muscular, so they then have to rely on touch and other options. And I'd like to see them, we've spoken about the Heather Knight sweeping, I'd like to see them sweep more. Look at Phoebe Litchfield. She's not massive, she's not a big unit, but she has wonderful wrists, and she sweeps and she uses her feet, and she has touch and timing. So I do think there is a bit of a discrepancy there, that the batting of some of these other nations does need to just go up a notch, and maybe a bit more gym work. You see it in the men's game now, how strong. You don't have to be in the gym all the time, but I do think there is an area for improvement there in some of the women's game. I think there is. Elisa Healy's not a massive unit, but she works areas. I'll be sitting in the room watching her bat, and you think, oh, that could be caught in the deep, and she hits it where there's not a fielder. Obvious thing to say, but there'll be a deep mid-off and a deep point, and Healy will find a way of absolutely hitting it perfectly between the two over extra cover for 4.
One of the frustrations of the tournament overall has been the rain in Colombo. Now, this is an Indian World Cup, we should be clear about that. The reason they're playing in Sri Lanka is because of the tensions between India and Pakistan politically. And Sophie Devine has been quite strong in what she said, that, all right, we're playing in Colombo, but why can't we start in the morning when it's not going to rain? If it's going to rain, it's going to come later we're not getting enough cricket. We waited 4 years for this and we're watching it rain. What's your take on the whole of that?
She makes some very valid points there. You wait, as a female cricketer, you wait all this time to be centre stage in a World Cup, especially someone like Sophie Devine playing in her last 50-over World Cup, probably. I think she's made that well known. And you want to play all the time. And you're right, the first bit, it wasn't supposed to be in Sri Lanka, it's supposed to be just here in India. And then you're in Sri Lanka, it is the monsoon, it's the rainy season, they get so much rain there. And then you have the same weather pattern every day in Colombo. You get up, it's bright sunshine, and gradually the cloud builds. The toss is 2:30. At 3 o'clock, the clouds are rolling in. At 4 o'clock, it's raining every day. So I don't know why. When I first looked, you come out, what time are the starts? It's 3 o'clock. Why 3 o'clock? Is it? I don't know if it's a TV thing, so you can have East and West. You can have Australia and New Zealand and England and all have the right TV slots. A lot of timings is obviously about TV slots around the world. Maybe the heat. I've heard one reason that it's the heat starting later in the day.
You played Test match in Sri Lanka starting at 10 o'clock.
It's
hotter than the sun.
I know, yeah. So it is. You just get on with it. That's part of being an international cricketer. You just play. You start at 10 o'clock. Play Test match cricket. Play one-day internationals. So I don't know the reason for it, but it's been disappointing to say the least, because it has altered the table. Sri Lanka would have waited a long time. Chamari Atapattu would have waited so long to have a home World Cup and be a captain in that 50-over World Cup. And every day you're sort of looking at weather forecasts and seeing if it's going to rain. So it has been very disappointing for players in particular in Colombo with the weather.
Now, I'm not taking the mickey here at all. I did a little bit last night as we were coming off air because you were doing the presentation, then you came over to us, then you had to go and do digital. But people might be interested to know how it works. You're out here, obviously, talking to me for Sky Sports, but you're also working on the World Feed, which is ICC TV. What does that entail? What does a day entail for you? Because you're flying around the place, you're doing different games, multiple different teams, a lot of prep work. How does it all work for you?
Well, firstly, it's not a tough gig, as you know.
No.
So, and look where we are, and we love India. We come here. I've been to venues that probably haven't been to for a very long time. And when you rock up there, you realise you're so old, they don't play in the same ground. You think, oh, I played at that ground. And it's like, no, that ground's gone. This is a new ground or whatever. So we used to have like 7-match, shows how old I am, 7-match one-day series. And I've probably been to Guwahati, or I've probably been to Indore or Vizag or whatever. And so it's nice to go back, and it's nice, always good to be back in India. But your average day, it is a bit Groundhog Day. It is travel, played, or travel, commentate. But the massive, and you'll know this, the massive change has been the information you get. In the old days of me, you, Ath, Bumble, Beefy, Bob, whoever, strolling around, checking golf course times, and where to eat and where you can get a glass of Chardonnay or whatever, and then rock up the next day and go, oh, who's playing today, sort of thing. Those days have long gone. We will have obviously a statistician, so the equivalent of Benedict, Mazza, as we both know from our days in Pakistan. Mazza did the last venue. We'll have a crew for each venue. So your statistician will send you stuff, all on your phone, on your laptop. Then,
if your phone's working.
My phone's gone. I've completely lost my phone. No laundry, no phone, no passport, no glasses at one stage on this trip.
No visa.
No visa. The wheels have come off this trip completely. I fell off my chair yesterday in the com box. I don't know what's going on. I'm off back in the lake in a minute. You'll get that. Then CricViz will send you stuff, which is really useful stuff, match-ups and where they've struggled and who's hitting well in certain areas. And then some other random stats person will send you stuff, and then you'll get stuff from the other games that are going on. So you'll finish at 11 in the evening and your phone will go with all the stats for the game that you're not doing somewhere else. So you're bombarded with this information that is and then you get the analysis producer with ICC events. They'll have a specific producer for analysis, and they will be hitting you with ideas for matchups and who's struggling, like the Tammy Beaumont stuff, struggling against the in-swing. And it's very useful. In the old days, you just as a captain, you'd have a gut feel. So when you're preparing to bowl to Ricky Ponting, your gut feel was, with length, you better be spot on. If you're slightly full, that much full, he's driving you through mid-on. So your bowler adjusts by that much and he's pulling you over square leg for 6. So you'd say to your bowler, just on gut feel, bowling to Ricky, get your length spot on. That's more important maybe than line. Whereas now it's all about the analysis you get. It's not just gut feel. The gut feel is backed up by the stats. So I might ring the analysis producer or the statistician or CricViz and says, my gut feel is that Tammy Beaumont keeps getting out to the in-swinger or the nip backer. And they will send you stuff to back that up, or say, no, that's absolute nonsense, it's actually the one that moves away. So it's all very useful. The only thing I'd say to your modern commentator, and I've always learnt this from someone like Bumble or Ian Smith, they will turn up with their stats and they will do their prep, but they have a real, I mentioned gut feel there, they will have a gut feel to commentary. A game of cricket is a lot more than statistics or analysis, and I'm as worst as anyone with over-analysing. It is just like about calling the moment and having that, let it breathe and let the moment talk for itself sort of thing. So if I was offering any advice, it would be to just have a turn up and have a feel for commentary. Just let the words at times, it's about words, and that's where people like Ian Smith, Ian Bishop, Bumble were just magnificent at.
And just explain the commentary rota, because that is dictated by the producer and then overseen in an ICC event by Ajesh, who I mentioned a little earlier. Do you look at that very closely? Do you work in a partnership with your commentator? How does that work? Do you look and say, oh, well, we can go that way with this commentator? I mean, you and I have commentated together for 10 years or whatever it is now, but in these events you are commentating with new people.
Yeah, and there'll be people who are not just new, but new to commentary. So Tash Farrant, who's done quite a bit of radio, so she will have a first gig at TV commentary maybe. So you wouldn't expect her immediately, as you know, there's a big difference between lead commentary and colour commentary. So often someone new to the gig will be on colour commentary, and also they add so much more. Tash, just outside, coming out of the dressing room, she will know exactly what Lauren Bell's working, and she did a really good piece on Lauren Bell's wrist position and run up, an angle of your run up. We have Wardy. Why is Broad so good for us? You know, it's suddenly, he's just like that. He'll see things and do things that we're like, okay, I never really thought of that sort of thing, because he's just come out of the dressing room. And then you'll have your lead commentator, who I think Bish has arrived since the West Indies series, who's more experienced, that will do the first few minutes of taking you on air and all the stuff that you have to do and call the moment. So, I don't mind. I don't rock up and look at the comm and go, well, I'm not on lead enough, or I'm on colour too much, or whatever. You're there, you commentate. The hardest bits for me is like the toss. I get really nervous about the toss.
You've done hundreds of them.
I don't know why. I just really get nervous about the toss. I can't see apart, unless you're Ravi Shastri. No one does a good toss. It's just like, it can only go wrong. And England have won the toss, and they're going to...
You're relying on the director
then
to
say, please, they're batting. So the toss does my head in, but it's all good fun, really. You work as a team, you work as a pair. The analysis is really good in ICC events. Yeah. We're lucky at Sky when we do those thirders pieces, and we have people, in Isleworth that are building stuff or whatever. But here at ICC, they have so many analysis producers that will have ideas and throw ideas at you.
With the toss, I'm with Bumble on this, and he said this years ago, if you and I were tossing up and whoever it was flip up, you win, we'll bat, and then just walk away.
Well, that's good coming from Bumble. Didn't he headbutt Richie Richardson at the toss? Yeah. He went down to pick up the coin. Richie Richardson went down, and the two of them headbutted. Bumble's beat got in the way or something, so it's not as easy as Bumble makes out.
Back to the cricket then. We know 3 of the semi-finalists. Who do you think potentially could be number 4?
Well, it makes that India-New Zealand game. I think that's Navi Mumbai, which is a good pitch. It'll be a good crowd in Mumbai.
I've not been there. Have you been to Navi Mumbai?
No. I've not been there at all. So I think they play WPL games there. Again, going back to your initial question a few moments ago about that's where the stats and the information is very useful. And co-commentators that have worked on WPL and on those games, what's that venue like sort of thing, getting information. But you still have a gut feel, India haven't played bad cricket. India are struggling to qualify and have lost 3 in a row, not because they've played bad cricket, but they've just played bad bits at the end of games. So you still feel that they're good enough to get through, but if they do get through, they're going to have to be a bit tougher, because they may well face Australia or something, or England again, if England top the group. So I still feel India, but New Zealand have, they've been sort of biding their time. They started slowly, then a bit of rain in Colombo. Those 2 experienced players, they'll want to finish off well in World Cup cricket, Susie Bates and Sophie Devine. So I fancy India still. I said before that it will be India, Australia and England, South Africa, but New Zealand have got a say in this.
Well, South Africa have still got a game in Colombo, haven't they? So I'm just thinking it's 1 plays 4, 2 plays 3, so they might drop a point potentially with rain, and because I suppose everyone's desperate just to avoid Australia at all costs
we haven't
until
spoken
they have
about
to.
them, haven't we? I mean, they're just such a top side, and we'll find out Wednesday. Even though both sides are qualified, it's still England, Australia.
Yeah.
It's just. We know it's just such a big game for those 2 nations in any format, in men's, women's, Ashes coming up, whatever. It is just such a massive game. Australia just looks so strong. Healy's found form, Litchfield's found form, Sutherland with the ball, brilliant. Alana King, brilliant. Just the drift and spin, and she's got a fabulous record against England. I think that's an area for England. Alana King against them. That's going to be a big battle for them. So they look incredible. The batting depth of, with McGrath and Sutherland and Gardner and all these batters down the order, they just keep coming at you. So that they still look favourites. It may be a classic sort of, we've waited a month to find out that Australia are the best cricketing nation here. So, but as we found out last night, if you get it slightly wrong for 10 overs, a game can be taken away from you, so who knows?
Well, that is Wednesday, back at indoor. England play again at indoor against Australia. As Nas says, both have qualified, but it is, of course, England against Australia. Happy Diwali, everybody. We found some flowers. There was a lad that just brought some flowers in, so we didn't quite have to wait till November. We will catch you next time. And Nas, you've got a bit of a bead on, so go get in the shade. See you later.